no one heard anything about the iPad. No one saw anything, right? There was no leaked information, right? There was no leaks. You guys are familiar with the word leak, right? It's like when water leaks from something, right? It was completely secret. People had a basic idea that they're coming out with this iPad, but we don't know what color it's going to be. We don't know how big it's going to be. We don't know what features it's going to have, right? It was like this huge mystery. So this leads to excitement, doesn't it? As you get close, they just put a date, right? They said, I think, what was the date that it came out? It was January 2010, right? They just said on this date, the iPad is going to come out. That's all they said, right? And it's kind of like, it's pretty adventurous, right? It's pretty kind of maybe like bold or courageous, right? Because look at what they're saying in the article. What was Apple's competition doing at the same time? In that same section, what does it say about Apple's competition?
They were releasing a new phone.
Right. But what were they marketing the phone a lot? Shin and Mitsui, were they marketing the phones like their competition, right? The other companies, what were they doing? In terms of how many ads did they have? Were they coming out with a lot of commercials?
No.
They were, right?
They were?
They were. Right? Look at it.
Oh, yeah.
The Droid campaign, right? For the Google Android phones, right? So that's really, really interesting, right? Because, and it takes even more courage, right? Because, and the reason why I say that is because what they're doing is they're saying that what our competition is doing, other companies that are coming out with these Android phones, right? Things that are competition for the iPad, they're all advertising. They're taking a lot of time, right? And money, right, to advertise, but they're not doing the same thing. They're saying we're completely different. We're just going to give you a date. Just watch out for this date. We're going to come up with something really exciting, and that's kind of interesting, right? So it does take a lot of courage, and it does take a lot of.
But did they like distribute on TV or something?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. You just had a date, and you had like some people. You had a lot of people who were talking about it.
How did you know like the date?
What do you mean the date,
Like how?
There were some early, like, not even pictures, right? There were some early pictures, I think. But then after that, there was no ads showing what it looked like, right? There was no videos of what it looked like how thick is it, how heavy is it. No one had any idea about those things. They're really important.
Usually, when things get leaked, are those people that are working inside the company the ones who leak? Usually when they get leaked.
Well, I mean that's a very interesting question. When leaks happen, it's it really depends. Sometimes it's an honest mistake, right? When the iPhone 4, I think the iPhone 3GS. Did you guys remember the story?
The 4S.
The 4S, I think. Like somebody just left it. Like someone went to a bar. One of these Apple engineers who just happened to have a very early version of it that they were testing in their labs. He just had it with him, right? And then he just like left it. He probably got drunk or something, and he like left it in the bar. And then people found it, right? And then people were like, what is this? This is like, I've never seen something like this. And then people started taking it apart, right? And then it turned out that this is the new Apple phone. It was an early prototype, remember when we were talking about prototypes? It was a very early version, right? So the thing is that that's kind of interesting.
Sometimes leaks or mysteries, like you said, sometimes mysteries or leaks will end up upsetting.
Yeah.
Like when we say when people thought it was the iPhone 5.
Yeah.
When they actually announced it was the 4S.
Yeah.
Many who were waiting for the 5 were upset.
Yeah, because the thing is that they also do a lot of research, right? Mm-hmm. Companies do a lot of research. You know, they engage their customer just like Coca-Cola does, and they try to find out, you know, how should we, if we're not gonna release the iPhone 5 this year, right? How can we change our advertising strategy, right? So that people won't get upset. That's important as well, right? But the problem is when a leak happens, that's out of your control, right? So people just find out about it, and suddenly people are like really, really mad. And you still have this. Sometimes there's industrial espionage, and I'll write that word out for you guys. It's basically spying. A lot of times, and this has happened in the past, there's been some famous cases of this. But industrial, it's called espionage. And this word basically means like spying, right? So espionage basically means like, they'll send like a spy to like secretly break into like the company's offices, right? And then they'll look through the files and things like that. A lot of times, guys, don't talk in class.
Sorry.
So a lot of times what happens is this is one way where people like find out, right? But this is more like competitors, right? So Motorola, right? They're Apple's competition, right? Or Samsung, right? So they might send people. But this is like really, really rare. There's been a couple of cases of it. But usually what people try to do is they try to like hack. Nowadays you have like computer hackers, right? And they'll try to hack into a company's like network and try to look through people's files, which is why companies spend like a lot of money on protecting their networks, right? For instance, my roommate, he works for a consulting company, and their clients are pharmaceutical companies, right? So pharmaceutical companies, they, obviously, their information is super, super sensitive, right? It's like, this is all super secret stuff about products that they're planning to release 2, 3, 4 years later. And he helps them come up with marketing strategies for it. So his work computer, right, it's locked in a way that if you tried to take any of those files, right, and put them on a drive and take it to another computer, he won't even be able to open it. So basically, it's kind of interesting because that's how they protect their files. You have to be very, very careful. Sometimes they don't even, I had clients when I used to work in consulting, they wouldn't even let me use my own computer. They would say that we're going to set up a computer for you, and you can only use our email. You can't even send any files anywhere. There's like super, super secret stuff that I can never ever talk about, some of the stuff that I've worked on, right? I can't ever talk about it. So the thing is, or they make you sign an agreement that says you can't talk about this for 5 years. So I know certain things about companies that I have to keep secret for the rest of my life, basically. Otherwise they'll like sue me, right, or something like that, if I let them use that. So that's kind of like how it works. But in general, leaks happen, it is generally through employees. If somebody makes a mistake, right? Or somebody like gets their email hacked or something like that. That's why companies like they monitor what everyone is doing online. Like so if you're chatting with your friends and stuff, and if you're on your work computer, right? Your IT departments, they can find out what you've been doing online and stuff. And depending on the industry, like in pharmaceuticals and consumer products like Apple, they're like, so like Blizzard, right? Blizzard is like super, super strict about this because they have secret projects that people never find out about, right? Like when StarCraft 2 was being developed, no one even knew that it was being made. It was that much of a secret. Just a handful of people. Just the people who were creating the game, they're the only ones that knew. There were even people who worked at Blizzard who had no idea. It was so secret. So it's important when you're, you know why it's important? Why is it important? Why is it important to keep these things a secret until you're ready to launch? Why do you think it's important?
You have to test first.
Yeah, you don't have a final version, right? The leaks are usually kind of like when you're halfway through making something, right? So if people see something when it's halfway done, it's like if you're trying to drive a car that is just like the frame of the car, right? Is the car going to move? No, right? So you're gonna, as a consumer, as people who buy this stuff, right? We're gonna create an idea that hey, this is StarCraft 2. This doesn't look like what I thought it would look like, right? I thought it was going to look a lot cooler than this. Well, they're making it look a lot cooler. You just saw it at the wrong time, right? So it's really important for companies to wait so that they can actually present it when they want to, right? Because they're the ones who really know the product. They're the ones who really understand their consumer as well, right? So let's talk about the third area, okay? What is it telling you? The third learning. Pedro and Shin. What does this paragraph tell us?
Make the #1 product.
Yeah. This is very, very important. Focus on quality. This is very, very, very important, right?
I think what I'm trying to say is like focus on being on the first one. Like I mean, don't focus on being the first because like there's already things that came out like the MP3 or something like that. MP3, even though it's like making like a better version, but like saying like don't focus on that. Just make it better so you could keep the new product
Yeah.
for a long time for for new people to buy your product and make it important to
Right.
whoever.
So, like, let me ask you a question, right? So, Minsu and Koyun, right? Do you see that, so the Palm Trail, right? They talk about how the iPhone was not the first touchscreen phone, right? This phone was the Palm Trio, right? This is the first one. But have you guys ever even seen a Palm Trio? Do you even know what it looks like? I've never even seen it, but it was the first. The problem is, it was the first, but it wasn't the best, right? When the iPhone came out, everyone was like, wow, I don't want this thing's like trash. I want the iPhone, right? So it's important especially for a company like Apple, right? What does Apple have? What does Apple have that other companies don't have? What does Apple have? Think about it. When you think of Apple, right, what is their greatest strength?
The name?
Do you agree?
Their own software.
Yeah, so that's important, right? Their software and stuff. But do you agree with him about the fact that their name, the name Apple,
The
Yeah,
brand.
it's influence.
the brand, right?
Brand, yeah.
The brand, right? So they have the brand Apple. And when you think of Apple, what do you think of? When you think of an Apple product, what do you think? Koyun, when you think of any Apple product, right? What does it remind you of? What characteristics, right?
The design is so simple and looks good.
Right, yeah, that's really important, right? Apple makes really nice looking phones, right? The iPad is like really nice. It's thin, right? It's sleek. It's slim, right? It's light. So, it's something that's like really, it looks nice, right? It looks cool. That's really important, right? What else do you guys think of when you think of Apple products? So that's one thing, right? They look really nice, right? So here's a new word for you guys, right? Aesthetic. Aesthetically pleasing. This means pleasing to the senses, right? Pleasing to the senses. So it's like, when you see something beautiful, it looks nice, right? It's like when you see it, when you touch it, when you smell it, when you hear it. That's all aesthetics. When something is aesthetically pleasing, it's pleasing to the senses. We have 5 senses, right? We have taste, eyesight, smell, yep, hearing. What's the last one? Touch, right? How does it feel? So Apple products, we know, are aesthetically pleasing. They're pleasing to the senses, right? But what else comes to mind when you think of Apple?
The price? I mean, that's what I usually think about.
You usually think about? So,
Yeah,
so they're a little expensive, right?
It's very expensive, but it's like people consumers, they don't care.
Right.
They want it.
Right. So we'll talk about that because we're going to talk about demand elasticity today. But
Let me add Matt, because
Yeah, sure.
like there's like all the like the Joy, the Fire,
the Droid,
and then the other one from the Google,
the Android phone, so the Droid,
the other tablet, which just came out, Fire X,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. So the Samsung Galaxy,
It's like,
let's say.
they're like so cheap, like 100, 200
Yeah.
compared to the other tablets.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's soon if
But then
it's
Apple's unique, right?
unique. Exactly.
Apple's
It
unique,
makes it
right?
unique.
Why? So Apple can charge prices that are higher, right? Why? Remember we were talking about BMW? BMW cars, the quality is the same as Hyundai, right? But BMW costs $20,000, $30,000 more. Why?
Are you
Psychological.
brand?
The brand. So the brand is valuable, right? But then what do you associate with the brand? We talked about one,